Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and discussing the character Georgie from the newest episode of The Walking Dead, Season 8, Episode 12, The Key. With that being said, major warning and spoilers for everything in the show, along with the comics, and let's jump right into this. So I'm just going to pose the question, and then work around explaining myself. Is Georgie the governor of the Commonwealth? Whether or not you've read the comics and are up to date, you've probably heard this question the past week or so. The newest episode of The Walking Dead introduced quite an interesting individual named Georgie, who has a passion for collecting old vinyl records. She appears to be very well off, even though she's only accompanied by 2 other people. So what's her deal, and why did they introduce her? Also, am I the only one that thinks of Pennywise from the movie It when I hear Georgie's name? Anyways, let me just say that I was not expecting her character introduction. I was thinking someone like Laura, Sherry, Heath, or even Jadis to arrive as an unexpected visitor at the hilltop, but not a possible TV show version of the Commonwealth governor. For those of you unaware, the most recent story arc in the comics feature a brand new huge community called the Commonwealth, and Pamela Milton is the governor of the place, and she looks exactly like Georgie. Okay, so Maggie, Michonne, Rosita, and Enid discuss the note left by Georgie. They figure it could be a trap from the Saviors, and even if it's not, it's still not worth risking. Normally that would be the safe option to take, so they almost don't go for it, but Michonne convinces everyone due to the impact of Carl's final wishes to help people. So they go meet Georgie on the road, and at this point I was losing my shit. Maggie is harsh at first, but they bring them back to the hilltop, and thank God. I took one look at her and connected her to Pamela from the comics, and they literally look the exact same, except for the fact that Georgie has those round glasses that are apparently based off of one of the crew members working on the show behind the scenes, as they said on Talking Dead. Now, after much contemplation, Michonne convinces Maggie to do the right thing and make the trade that Georgie wants, and she gets heavily rewarded for it. Not only is Maggie given tons of food, but she's also given a huge book to help rebuild and improve her community. Not only will this help improve the hilltop, but I assume it'll also be used to help rebuild the kingdom, and especially Alexandria, between seasons after the war is over. Now, with that recap out of the way, let's completely break down Georgie and what her deal is. Now, although it may just be for safety reasons, she definitely is keeping things secret from Maggie and her people. I'm not sure what it is, if she has people to go back to or what. It's just so odd how Georgie was out looking for records of all things. She doesn't bring up anything a normal person would when they first meet a community as large as the hilltop. She doesn't talk about connecting communities, trading actual resources, or even just making friends. She brings up freaking records, which just raises more questions. She seems to be so well off in resources or whatever that she's now only looking for recreational items. Who is willing to risk meeting with new communities for something like that, especially when you aren't going to create an established relationship with them afterwards? So is Georgie already a part of the Commonwealth at this point, or is this before she joined the place? Is this actually Pamela Milton? If Georgie was from the Commonwealth, why would she be out here on her own, especially if she was the governor? Shouldn't she have people such as Lance or someone else to scope out deals like this for her? In the comics, Lance was the person who meets newcomers and brings them into the Commonwealth if they meet the criteria. Sure, Georgie wasn't looking to recruit them in episode 8-12, but she could have still had other people scout for trading opportunities instead of her. I don't really think Georgie is scouting out from the Commonwealth. I feel like this is the governor before she actually became the governor of the Commonwealth, and that we won't see her for probably like an entire season and a half, and she'll return sometime down the road. Whether or not Georgie is currently a part of the Commonwealth itself, she's definitely a part of some community, at least right now. We only saw 3 people including her, but they look straight up like they came from a community. Like, are you kidding me? They look like they have access to fresh clothes and running water. They don't look like they've been on the road for longer than they've wanted to. And since Georgie willingly gave up half of their food, this implies that she has a bunch more where that came from. Considering how easily Georgie gave up the food as an action of good faith, it definitely implies that she can easily live without it. They probably took more than enough food when they left their community, and I bet you there's a crap ton still there waiting for them when they return. After all, Georgie did say that Maggie needed the food way more than she did. So regardless if Georgie is currently associated with the Commonwealth or not, she definitely is with a larger group of people somehow. Even if this is a prequel story to Pamela before she became became the governor of the Commonwealth, she still knows people. Now this could possibly be them introducing Pamela early in the show, because they've done this many times before. Dwight is a prime example. Original to the show, they actually introduced him back in season 6 before he got the burned face from the iron. We saw him a bit in the burned woods with Daryl, then not again until the end of the season. Granted, this early introduction with Pamela would have to wait much longer to actually pay off, but it's worked before, so they could be trying it again. They've actually introduced a bunch of comic book characters early. There's Dwight, there's the Oceanside community, there's Sadiq, and now possibly Georgie as well. The Walking Dead seems to be big on world building and foreshadowing, so it makes sense. They always seem to foreshadow new communities one way or another, regardless of whether they end up to be good or bad. When we see Pamela as the governor of the Commonwealth in the comics, it's like 4 years in the future compared to where we are on the TV show right now. So Georgie hypothetically has 4 years to advance out to Ohio, find the Commonwealth, and rise through the ranks enough to become the governor of it. Everything is stretching towards me believing that this is in fact Pamela before she found the Commonwealth and not afterwards. Up to issue 177 of the comics has been released at the point of me making this video, and we still have not been told how long Pamela has been a part of the Commonwealth, or how long she's even been its leader. Is she the original leader to the Commonwealth, or have there been others before her? Also, the governor of the Commonwealth introduces her full name to Michonne as Pamela Milton, so is Georgie just a funny alias then? Pamela reminds me a lot of Hillary Clinton, except the name reminds me of Paris Hilton, which is an odd combination. Georgie in the TV show definitely looks a bit older than Pamela in the comics, but a lot of politicians are older adults, so it could work out, it doesn't really matter. I definitely get a different vibe from Pamela than I do from Georgie, but I could still see Georgie reading Pamela's lines in the Commonwealth in the future. Georgie seems like a wise and mature elder, kinda giving off a grandma vibe, while Pamela gives off more of a smart motherly vibe. Speaking of which, the most recent issue of the comics, Pamela is literally revealed to have a teenage son, let's say 16 years old, so that's a thing. They could just write out Georgie having a kid in the show if it comes down to it, but considering they made Georgie look exactly like Pamela, I assume that they'll be keeping most of the character the same. Pamela's son is Sebastian, I believe. He's like a bratty little privileged kid. I'm not saying he's the same level as Joffrey from Game of Thrones, but I definitely see him being purposely made to be hated on by fans. If Georgie has a kid to take care of, that's a huge responsibility. Those records aren't for him, are they? If she has a child in the show, they definitely weren't with her in the most recent episode in that van or whatever, which means that the kid would have to be back with Georgie's people, whoever they are. So as I said, this could be switched up in the show, like maybe they could make a Georgie adopt a troubled kid once she gets to the Commonwealth or something, but let me know what you guys think. We are still currently learning about Pamela Milton and her son Sebastian in the comics, as issues get released each month for the New World Order story arc, so if we get big news in a new issue, I'll be sure to create another video discussing the updated information and how it could possibly affect the TV show as well now that Georgie has been introduced into the actual show. Now, if you haven't seen my reviews for each issue of the New World Order story arc currently going on in the comics, I definitely insist that you check them out as they give my initial reactions to the entire Commonwealth situation, along with all the new information that we've recently gotten about them. I love the New World Order in the comics right now, and if they've just actually plopped Pamela in Season 8 for world building reasons, I'm going to seriously freak out when all this finally comes to fruition years from now and at like the end of Season 9 or Season 10. How cool would it be to have Michonne and Maggie eventually walk through the main building of the Commonwealth as they hear music play from records they gave Georgie back in Season 8. If they remember that Maggie and Michonne gave them the records, it would definitely give them some credibility with the Commonwealth that they are in fact good people. And just to think that they almost didn't take up Georgie on her note that she left them. All this happened because of Carl insisting to Michonne that she should help people. Michonne even mentions how they will fight this war, but that there needs to be something to live for afterwards, repeating what Carl said. Georgie is a perfect example of something that will be there after, especially if she's the leader of the Commonwealth, something that happens afterwards. And speaking of which, Georgie must not be aware of the Saviors. If she was, she wouldn't be so careless. If she knew about the Saviors, then she also could have possibly known that the Hilltop was at war with them right now, which would have probably made her not want to contact the Hilltop. I expect her to return in 2 to 4 seasons after the Whispers and just completely blow our goddamn minds, even more so than she already has from her reveal in the comics. People are saying that we may get the Whispers in the Commonwealth at the same same time, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that we'll get the same foreshadowing and world building with Eugene talking to Stephanie over the radio, and we may run into someone else for a bit that we may eventually see at the Commonwealth as well, but I don't think that we'll get the Commonwealth reveal on the show until after the Whisper War is dealt with. And speaking of which, I'll have to create a different video discussing how I feel they should structure the new beginning along with the lead up to the Whisper War and the war itself, because I don't want there to just be one war after another. People are definitely burnt out on the idea of war after season 7 and 8, and we need a break, so hopefully the new beginning gives us the refreshing look at The Walking Dead that we need. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, as it really helps me out more than you can imagine by getting my videos out there for more people to see. Subscribe for more Walking Dead Season 8 content in the near future, and if you'd like to take that extra step in helping support my videos, consider checking out my Patreon, where there's a bunch of different rewards involving the channel, such as getting your name shown at the end of all my videos, along with the possibility to directly influence my future videos being produced. It isn't necessary by any means, but it could really help in the long run. And as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
You're giving us food? In exchange for what?
Records and good faith. To be clear, this isn't a gift. It's barter. I'll be back. Maybe not for a while, but I will. And by then, I expect great things.